It is a pleasure to be with you today on a topic that I applaud the leadership team here for covering, because when I look at the HMWC printed materials, when I look at your website materials, it is very clear that you look to be not just business advisors, but very trusted business advisors, even to the point where you want to be a valuable member of your clients' management teams. And my initial message to you here this morning on this topic, or that we're covering this afternoon, is that you either can have a tactical relationship with your client, or you can have a strategic relationship with your client. This is a topic today that we're covering. If you are helping your client think this through, you have a strategic relationship with your client. If this is not a topic that you've been able to discuss and help your client with, then your relationship perhaps may be more tactical. And today's forum, which we're just here for 4.5 hours, so we'll have you out of here before 3, you will leave here in a little while with some ideas as to how to engage with your client on the topic that is of utmost importance to them. So let's jump in with both feet. I want to start with a very brief story. Back just a few years ago, I was at a closing dinner. Some of you know the closing dinner is the celebratory dinner where the buyer and the seller come together. And at the dinner, I was on the CEO side. We were buying this business, and the gentleman who was selling was sitting across from me. And during the course of the dinner, he said to me, "Larry, I have to tell you, this event of my selling my business did not turn out like I always dreamed it would. I worked for decades on this thing. I grew some good revenue. I've grown some good profits. But your company came in and a few others came in to kick my tires. And you looked for things that I didn't know were going to be important to you. And in the valuation you're giving me, I'm feeling the pain of it. I've got to exit. I got to take your offer. And Larry, your offer was the best of the worst." And he used the phrase, "If I could turn back time, I would have done things very differently." And he made a very interesting statement. He said, building a business is like putting a puzzle together. It's going to look great if all the puzzle pieces are properly put in the right place. But if you just miss 1, 2, or 3 of the puzzle pieces, guess what? You don't have a complete puzzle. He said, I've learned firsthand now that preparing a business for exit takes years to do, and it takes knowing all of the pieces of the puzzle that have to be put in place. So today, I want you leaving this session saying to yourself, I don't ever want to have a client of mine, of HMWC, saying, I wish I could turn back time, I would have done things differently, because you today going forward can help them from ever uttering those words. So what is our purpose here today? Our purpose is to provide you a new way to strengthen your relationship with clients that perhaps you are not yet having that level of strategic dialogue with. The next is to provide you some openings. We've inserted into this material various questions that you can be keeping in mind when you're with clients, that you can insert into your conversations with your clients. So you'll leave here today seeing some opportunities to open the dialogue with your client. And lastly, if you were to say to me, Larry, what is probably one of the top reasons that you see business owners being ill-prepared to optimize their exit? I would tell you it's because they don't know what to do. They have an uncertainty of what steps they should be taking years prior. When you leave here today, I want you leaving with the confidence that you know some of the steps that you can guide your client on their journey, ultimately adding the greatest value that you could offer to them. Quick show of hands, how many of you in the room can already think of clients you have that are either already openly discussing, are they preparing properly, or you know that they are struggling with it? So Susie or Susan, I saw raising your hands. Okay, so we've already seen several hands go up. This is not a nice to have, this is a must have. So a quick explanation to add on to what Art said. In the room here today, there are a few subject matter experts. Because as I go through this material and lay the groundwork for a really effective process that you can help your clients think through for building their company value, along that journey, they are going to need subject matter experts. And in the room today, we've got subject matter expert Brian up here in the front of the room in terms of personal financial planning. A lot of business owners aren't really prepared to know what they're going to do when that day comes if they're fortunate enough to get an outlay. Bill Ellemeyer is here, a very critical role in helping a business owner think through their future exit is what do they want to do personally with their lives post-event. That is a lot of thinking that people have to do. Bill is in the back here, he's an expert in that area. I don't know who he is, you know who these two gentlemen are, and then Ray is with us, and Ray is a leadership subject matter expert, organizational development, people development. All these different expertises can be brought to bear to help you if you ever see you need a subject matter expert with a client. So let's step up to 100,000 feet for a minute and talk about what's going on in the world in terms of the need of this topic, and quite frankly, the need of the people in this room to have it front and center on your mind when you are working with a client. The United States, as we all know, is predominantly small businesses. And 70% of the current small businesses in the United States over the next decade are going to have to change hands. Many of them, most of them, are owned by baby boomers. And they're now deciding, what am I going to do with my business? And this is an opportunity for firms like HMWC to provide outstanding value to these business owners to help them think through how to prepare. My comment is this is also not just for baby boomers. This is also for the next generations that are coming up and starting to move into business ownership. They also need your advice in terms of how to use time as their friend in order to one day optimize the value of their business. So right now, the market dynamics are powerful on this topic. And if somebody were to say, list all the things that HMWC partners are really good at, this is one you'd want to say, they talk about your firm. Boy, if you folks really want to work with a financial advisory firm, an accounting firm, a tax firm, you want to be getting business advice from HMWC. I want to bust a few myths, and I want to bust them with you because you may be hearing them from your clients. So I want you to be ready to hear these and then push back on them. As you engage with your client and say, hey, how are you coming in terms of planning for your future exit? Are you thinking about it? You are potentially going to hear from them, I'm just too busy right now. I got to finish project X. I got to get the MRP system in place. I've got to hire these 3 people over here. I will get to it. As we go through this material today, I'm going to give you some windows of opportunity to talk to them about changing that mindset so that they can use time as a friend. Don't let them hide behind, I'm too busy right now. The second one, and this is the most dangerous of all, is if you hear a client say, hey, if I got good revenue and profit, I'm going to do fine. I'm going to get maximum optimal value when I go to sell my business. You as a business advisor and a subject matter expert in terms of helping somebody think through how to optimize value, you need to say to them, revenue and profit is an outstanding entry into the poker game of one day selling your business. But you're going to have other cards in your hand in order to truly optimize the value of your business. And as we go through the material, you're going to learn what those are. So please help your clients bust myth number 2, which is all they need to worry about is revenue and profit. That is not correct. We'll talk more about that in a minute. The third one is also a very dangerous mindset that you need to help your clients think through. You may hear them say, hey, I can only influence my business. I can only influence my performance. I have no clue what the market is going to be dealing or serving up in terms of the exit multiples that are being delivered at that time. Wrong, wrong, and wrong. Now the market may be serving up a range of exit multiple, but don't you want to position your business to be in the upper range of that multiple when time of exit comes? So you need to push back on that myth and say, yes, I know that you cannot influence the cycle, the economic cycle of exit multiples being paid, but there's always a range. And you can manage your business to be in the upper end of that range not be disappointed by falling into the lower end. So I wanted to get those three myths in your head because you're going to come across it. Now, as you are sitting there today, and I want you to start thinking about some of your clients in this particular topic, there's 4 groups to put business owners in. And I don't really want to cover them now because I'm a little tired, but no, I'm kidding. I wanted to see when the carbs were going to kick in, so it looks like they did. So group number 1, as you meet with your clients, you're going to find they fit within 4 categories. And these categories are important because as we go through this material, I'm going to give you some things that you can say to these different categories that might nudge them to wanting to work with you a little bit more. Category 1, group number 1, is the owners that say, I'm in good shape. I am preparing. I am prepared. Within that group, there are 2 subcategories. The first subcategory is they are correct. They are actually doing a very, very good job. The second group is incorrect. They think they're doing a really good job, but they aren't because they've never really had somebody think through and guide them through all the other pieces of the puzzle that they are going to have. So this is group 1, which is I am prepared. The second group is my identity, I am the business and the business is me. They cannot even envision a future state where they are not affiliated or associated with the business. So if they can't envision that future state, why would they want to plan for it? So that is a major category of business owners that even sometimes the company name is them. And when you say to them, let's talk about the future and what you're going to do with this business, you can instantly tell they can't envision that future state. The third category of business owner knows that they could and should be doing something better to prepare their business to one day get optimal value for it. But they are frozen by uncertainty. They don't know what to do. So instead of being able to figure it out, they go back to work. They go back and answer emails. They go on the plane and visit the next customer. They return the next phone call, and they just keep pushing it off. This is a category certainly an HMWC client shouldn't be in because you'd say, wait a minute, I'm here as a trusted business advisor. I know how to help you eliminate this uncertainty in terms of what to do. And certainly the subject matter experts that I showed a few minutes ago in this consultants link, they are there to help you, help your client remove that uncertainty. But that is group number 3, which is they know they want to do something, they just don't know what to do. The last group is, I am ready to start, point me in the right direction, put me in, coach. So at this point, I would say to you, as you think about these 4 groups of clients, and you start putting your clients in these different 4 groups, these 3 right here, you can quickly have a heavy positive impact on them. This group here is a little bit tougher because they can't even envision and accept the future state of them not being with the business. These 3 right here, you absolutely can be helpful to them. So let's start to go through more reasons how. One of the first things you would want to talk to your client about is, what is your mindset about the future of an exit? How do you even define preparing for an exit? And invariably what you are potentially going to hear is that the definition that your client is using for a future exit, it's not a very good definition, and you're going to want to coach them through a change. So what do I mean by that? Most business owners, when you say to them, hey, tell me what you think exit preparation is. How do you define it? How are you preparing for a future exit? The answers you're going to find are oftentimes, well, once I decide to sell, I'm going to hire a broker or a banker because they're experts, and they are. I'm going to put a teaser or a confidential information memorandum together. I'm going to prepare my due diligence. The banker or the broker is going to help me find some acquirers, and I'm going to negotiate a deal. 9.72 times out of 10, slight exaggeration of that statistic, but the vast majority of times, the owner is going to be woefully disappointed at time of exit because, in fact, all they prepared for was the final stage of actually doing the actual deal. They never actually prepared to excite the future buyer, or better off buyers, because you want plural, looking at your business. So when you hear this definition, you want to say to your client, I'd like to get you to rethink your definition, and instead of thinking of exit preparation, can we think in terms of exit optimization? Oh, what do you mean? What's the difference between the two? Well, if you look over here, these are really in the final stages of the whole process. But down here, you look at these stages that you can quickly scan yourself, and you can see the difference in taking this approach versus taking this approach. And what I say to business owners, because I've seen it myself on the companies that I've been involved with, having sold and we were not happy, and the ones that we were euphoric from selling, it was the ones we weren't happy on went this route, the ones we were euphoric on went this route. Any sports fans in the room, this is playing pure defense. As a business owner, if you want to play defense, this is the route you use. This is the mindset you use for the definition of exit preparation. For anybody who wants to play offense, this is how you play offense. And what we're going to go through next is a 5-step campaign that you can take that will take you this route and help you be euphoric and avoid this route. So let's talk about the effective 5 steps that any business owner can take. And I don't care if the business is a manufacturing company, a service company, a software company, a widget making company. This process, this campaign can work for any one of those businesses. There are 5 steps to it. I'm going to go through each one. The first one is, what does good look like? You don't want a business owner thinking about any of the other 4 steps until you have guided them to think about step 1. We're going to talk about that in a second. Step 2, know their environment. Get outside of just thinking about inside their 4 walls and thinking about what's going on outside the 4 walls. We're going to talk about that one being key in this campaign. Number 3, everybody in this room, business advisors, you look at your client strategic plans. The number of those strategic plans that you look at that really only talk about the next year or two, and more often just talk about driving revenue and profit. There is no bridge there to actually long-term optimal value of this business, because it only is addressing a few pieces of the puzzle. It's not addressing all of them. So the third step in this campaign is to make sure that the strategic plan is actually strategic, whereas most clients have very tactical strategy documents. And in this campaign, it helps them figure out how to move from a tactical strategic plan to a very strategic plan with a direct bridge to building long-term value. The fourth step is having the right organization. For those businesses that the acquirer is going to want to assimilate in the organization, that is a critical preparation step that a business owner has to take years in advance. And the last is to assemble the right deal team. So let's walk through these in a little bit more detail. And I also want to give you some questions that you can be asking of your clients next time you're with them to start to facilitate this pinnacle of all business topics. So puzzle piece number 1 is to know, or what does good look like for the future. Years ago, Stephen Covey wrote a wonderful book that probably a lot of people in the room have read, which is Begin with the End in Mind. He was 100% correct. Every business owner should be thinking about, what does good look like for me personally going forward? The most powerful thing of this is not having a bunch of fluffy, intangible targets at a future period. It's to be as definitive with a black and white tangible target as you can, which is called, how much money do you want to get from this business that you are working your tail off for? Don't give me nebulous this and that. You want to start with a very tangible target. The latest business that we sold for $200 million, the private owner that I was the CEO for his company, we went through this first step of the campaign. It took a few months to really come out with exactly the dollar amount that was needed. Once we had that dollar target of 200 million, our decision making actually became easier because during the course of a day or a week or a month, all of our business decisions between me and the leadership team, we were able to throw it up against that target. So the first puzzle piece that you want to be talking to your clients about is, are they clear about what good looks like to them in the future? So some of the questions that you should be engaging with your customers is, have you thought about the future when you no longer have your business? It's just a very broad, open-ended question that you can start to facilitate with them. Do you know how much value you would like to one day get for your business? Guide them through thinking tangibly, not, oh, a lot of money. Okay, I get that. I agree with you and I'm here to support you. But are you looking for 2 million, 20 million, 200 million, or 2 billion? Because you're going to have a plan for whichever of those it is. Do you have alignment with your family or other stakeholders? One of the 4 groups I mentioned before, one of those groups that's frozen with uncertainty, nestled into that group is the co-owners, where owner number 1 says, I know we need to be doing something differently and we should be doing it yesterday, not tomorrow. But I got a partner, or I got 3 partners, or I've got a spouse at home that I just can't get on the same sheet of paper with. You've got to try to figure out how to help them get that alignment all around this initial category of step 1. Lastly, business owners need to think years before the transaction. Do they have expectations of what good looks like in terms of maybe real estate for the part of the business? Have they thought through the company name? Do they care if the acquirer kills the company name, or would that be heresy because it's a family legacy that they want to have continued? Do they care about what happens to their employee base? Are they going to be okay if the acquirer comes in and says, I'm closing your operation down and I'm moving it to Tempe? These are things that you want to be encouraging your client. You don't think about them when you're in the final stages of doing the deal. You need to think about them years prior. All of that fits into this puzzle piece number 1, which is, what does good look like? Let's move to the second piece of the puzzle, which is to know your environment. Are there any surfers in the room? Anybody surf or has surfed? If you watch a surfer, when they pull into the parking lot, pull their board off the car, they don't just gleefully go running into the water and jump in and start surfing. They're getting dressed on the beach, they're looking out at the water, they're trying to read the tide, they're trying to read the rip tides, they're reading everything before they get in the water. That is the second piece of the puzzle that HMWC people advise their clients on, is to make sure you know what's going on outside your 4 walls, because it is going to influence the value of your business someday. I always say to business owners, what are you doing that is going to excite future acquirers? You don't want just acquirers coming in going, yeah, it's a good little business. It's a business. It's a nice business. I'll put a bid in for it. No, you want them coming in, learning about your business, and going out to the car and saying to their partner or texting somebody, we want this business. This is an exciting business that we want to own. You only know that through knowing your environment. Actually, I'm going to add one other piece up here. One of the things that I encourage people to do is, in this second step of the campaign, go out and actually talk to somebody that one day could be an acquirer of your business. Talk to 3 of them, talk to 4 of them. You can find the right people to have a very confidential conversation with, to say, my business is not for sale today, but it is going to be a few years from now, and I would think a company like yours would have interest in it. And I'd love to hear what you guys look for, what you girls look for when you buy a company. We've done that a couple times with businesses that we've had. We've learned exactly what it's going to take to excite the living daylights out of them. And then we left ourselves a couple of years to go put those things in place. And then when we call them and say, guess what? We're now up for sale. We know all the boxes they're going to have expected us to check. And when they come in, they go, wow, we are excited about this. So some of the questions that I would encourage you to be asking your clients: do you have an idea of how your business may one day excite? And the key word is excite. It's even a more powerful word than attract. I'm not looking to attract a future acquirer. That's actually not that difficult. You want optimal value, you want to get the upper end of the exit multiple range, excite the buyer. So you as an advisor to your client want to be asking that specific question about exciting. Have you thought about who the likely future buyers might be? What are they out there today buying? Why are they buying it? I've seen industries where active buyers are out acquiring and they're filling their gaps through their acquisition activity, and then they're done filling that gap. And meanwhile, this company's sitting over here going, they're going to buy me someday. Your window is quickly closing because they're filling their gap. And they're going to have that gap. They're not going to need your company anymore. So that's why this puzzle piece of the campaign, the step number 2, is so critical, because you can't be myopic in this. You've got to know what's going on, who's out there, what are they buying, why are they buying, and then how can we excite them in the future. Third, I mentioned earlier the number of times that you will read a strategic plan and you read it and say, okay, I can see where you're going to try to grow your revenues in the next year or two. I can see where you're trying to leverage good profitability from that. But what are you doing with the other things that the acquirer is going to look for? Oh, like what? Well, the acquirer is going to be looking for an exciting sales pipeline going forward. They're going to think you're selling because your business has peaked. You have to show them with great confidence that you're not selling because you know the downside is coming. You're actually selling at a time that you're going to give them plenty of wind left in the sails for this boat to keep going. How about things like your customer or vendor contracts? Are they clean? What do you mean? Well, have you ever signed that you'll share the intellectual property 50-50 with the client? Do you have firm fixed pricing in all your contracts that gives you zero flexibility to ever raise your prices? Have you ever signed a contract that has a change of control clause in it, that customer or that vendor has the right to be the first one to look at buying your business, and they will freeze you from being able, the list goes on and on. All of those things have to be identified and then addressed in a strategic plan. So it really is elevating a strategic plan from being tactical to highly strategic. When you read a strategic plan, you should literally see how they plan to do what? Excite the buyers. So that is the third step of the campaign, is to make sure that you have built a strategic plan that has those things I just mentioned. And here are some questions that you can be dialoguing with your client about. Mr. or Miss Client, are you currently working a strategic plan at all? Because we also know that some business owners don't even have a plan. And you can share with them that that could hurt them at time of trying to sell, because everybody in this room has seen the 20 pages of due diligence. One of those items is send us your last 3 years of strategic plan. If you don't have one to send them, that's a box there alone that raises a red flag to a future acquirer. Is how you're going to excite future buyers reflected in your plan? And the other one I say to people is, when I read your strategic plan, am I going to see that you are addressing trends that are coming at us fast and furious? Because, go back, the acquirer is going to say, well done on the business you built. I see what you built for the past. I see your historical. I'm worried about the future now. I don't see where you've addressed in your business thinking these trends that are coming at your industry. I don't see how you're addressing a nanotechnology or a biotechnology or an artificial intelligence or robotics or customers wanting things yesterday as opposed to waiting 3 weeks for it. All these trends that are hitting, if your client is not aware of those trends and addressing those things in their strategic plan, it is not a very effective strategic plan. So let's move to number 4. The fourth part of the campaign, the fourth puzzle piece, is to have the right organization, enable the right organization. Many of you have probably heard the expression, the acquirer is more often investing in the jockey than they are the horse. So many acquirers are coming in, and yes, they're drawn to your business because they like the widget or the service that this company provides, but they also need the organization to come with it. And that's where they're really going to be invested, because that's the organization that's going to take them forward to another promised land once they own the business. So you have to be helping your client think through, okay, you've got a great product, you've got a great service. That checks a few of the boxes that the future acquirer is going to want. But are you ready to show them an organization that will support their excitement about your business? I myself have gone in to look at businesses to acquire them, and we've left saying, love the widget, love the service, we own it tomorrow, but that culture stinks. We don't like the way they're organized. We can't assimilate it into ours. It would be a messy assimilation. The list goes on and on. If the owner had only thought through a few years earlier, made a few tweaks, it could have been the difference between us paying a much higher multiple, or quite frankly, we've backed away from deals simply because of organizational issues. Culture is huge, and I would encourage you to talk about with your client, are they happy with their culture? Do you know what the best definition of culture is? What do your employees do when no one's watching? The acquirer wants to know that, because the minute the seller drives away and the acquirer owns this business, they're wondering, do I have a good workforce? Do I like the culture? Are they empowered? Are they trained well to make good decisions? The list goes on and on. So culture is another powerful topic that you should be talking with your clients about, because they could get everything else right. If they don't also add the puzzle piece into this completed puzzle around culture, they are not going to get optimal value for their business. And quite frankly, they might not get any value. They might have people back away from it. Questions you could be asking your clients. Hey, we just talked about your strategic plan, Mr. or Ms. Client. Are your people aligned with your strategic plan? There's a lot of businesses out there that we see that have a plan, but only 2 or 3 people in the whole business even know what it is. And all the employees are working, doing something, but it's not actually bridging to bringing value to the business. So that is a question that an HMWC advisor would be asking their clients is, hey, can we talk about strategy or strategic plan? Are your people aligned with it? And if they aren't, an organization like Consultants Link has subject matter experts like Ray that can come in and give them some really good advice on how to make that connection. Do you think your team is going to excite future buyers? It's a good question to ask the owner. Well, I love my people. Okay, I get that, and I love them too as your advisor. But do you think they have the right backgrounds, the right experience, the right pedigrees? You know, if you're an engineering firm, and I look at the resumes of the people in your engineering department, are they really world-class people that the acquirer is going to expect to see and want to pay for? There's a lot of questions that you could facilitate them. Now, there's a key question here as well is, you may have some businesses, quite frankly, where the acquirer doesn't care about the organization. There are companies that just have a really good intellectual property, and that's all the acquirer wants, and they're just going to remove everything else. You as a business advisor would be helping your client think that through. I've seen businesses build infrastructures, very large infrastructures, hiring people left and right, only to find out at time of exit, no acquirer needed any of that infrastructure. They simply wanted the intellectual property that they created, and they were going to take it from there. If I was a business owner, I'd be pretty upset with my business advisor if they let me do all this infrastructure building, only to find out that it was going to be of no value to a future acquirer. And that goes back to that second step, which was to know your environment. You really should know if the acquirers are buying organizations or not. Lastly, when these other 4 things have been done well, and now we have a business that has shown some good historical growth. We have a business that has checked the other boxes in terms of a good sales pipeline, has the right organization, the list goes on and on. Now the owner's in a position to say, I think I'm ready to go to market. I played offense these last few years building my business. Now I want to optimize it. Now I'm going to take it to market. This is the next place for you to advise your client to not make mistakes, because it can ruin everything they just did in the previous couple of years if they don't get it right. Many business owners will sit there and go, I have a deal lawyer, it's my family attorney. Okay, your family attorney might be great, but do they know how to do transactions? Are they deal lawyers? If they're not, you might want to rethink getting a specialty lawyer. Taxes, financial planning, all that is a time when you need subject matter experts to get the deal successfully over the transom. Who's going to negotiate the deal, Mr. Business Owner or Miss Business Owner? Don't think you are. You're not a world-class professional negotiator. Even if you're a smaller business, you're still going to want to have somebody on your team that is really good at negotiating deals. It could be the difference between getting a 4 multiple or getting a 7 multiple. So I really encourage business owners to make sure you've got the right deal professionals. The other thing that is essential, and you guys play a huge role in this, Mr. or Miss Client, when you go to sell someday, you know they're going to do due diligence. They're going to come here and they're going to lift up the curtain. You don't want to lift up the curtain at the time of that event. We want to do it with you a year or two earlier. We need to do an internal due diligence of this business to see where you might have gaps. You don't want to find out about those gaps when you're in the final throes of trying to close a deal. So HMWC is in a wonderful position to say to a client, you know what, I could actually do a test due diligence audit for you. And you'll find some gaps, and aren't you glad we'll find them now? Because you're not planning to sell for another 2 or 3 years. And we can help you fix those gaps. So some of the questions that you could be asking your clients around the deal team. Hey, Mr. or Miss Client, do you have a board member or advisors that may have deal experience? It's interesting, sometimes I've talked with business owners and say, do you have any advisors or board of directors? Yeah. Have any of them ever done deals? Have they sold businesses? You know, I'm not really sure. Well, let's find that out, because you want to tap into that experience right away. Even if they had a bad experience, you want to learn about it so you as a business owner can avoid it. HMWC has other clients. You should be saying, well, if you don't have access, I could actually set up a cup of coffee with another client I have that sold last year. They'd probably love to give some advice to you in terms of how to do the deal. And then, as we talked about, to me, you guys could add enormous value in making sure that nobody has any surprises at time of due diligence. Have you heard the expression deal fatigue? Deal fatigue comes in acquisitions when the acquisition process is taking too long. You know, a normal deal of a mid-sized to a larger company could take 6 months if it's really done fast. Could take upwards of a year. The minute they start stretching on, both parties start to get fatigued. It's going too slow. I've got other things I want to go do in my life. That's the way the business seller is thinking, and even the acquirer is going, this is going way too slow. Many of the reasons that it's become slow is because the owner wasn't prepared for the due diligence process. They were not prepared for the amount of data and information that the acquirer was going to ask, and they weren't prepared to what it was going to convey. The acquirer receives the last year 3 P&L, 3 years of P&L. We all know that's going to be standard in the due diligence. The acquirer is going to come back within 48 hours with 8 pages of questions. The owner looks at those and goes, I don't know, I'm not prepared to answer these questions. That doesn't happen to any HMWC clients, because you will have had them prepared well in advance of what due diligence is going to look like, so that they know all these different pieces. So I don't want people to think that if I do the other 4 steps, if I know what the future looks like is good, if I know my environment, if I have the right strategic plan, I have a great organization, those are the 4 pieces of the puzzle, the deal will be optimized. No. You need to add this 5th puzzle piece, which is around having the right deal team. So as we start to close out here, and I want to open it up to any questions, and then switch to pictures from my 2014 summer vacation. Really, I know that that's what people have been waiting for. So, God bless you. First, I want you thinking in terms of, can I help my clients, especially in the category of they're frozen, they're uncertain what to do. You can start to guide them and say, hey, there are processes out there that can guide you through what to do. Now, I want to just take a quick look at this, because as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be starting to think, hopefully, about your clients and starting to put them into these 4 categories. So let's start to close up by looking at these and saying, if you have any clients that are in this category of, I am prepared, I'm in good shape, thank you for asking, you could be saying to them, can you help them assess their readiness? Hey, Susan, or hey, Charlie, I applaud you that you really are confident that you are well prepared to optimize the future value. Can we think through ways of sanity checking that? Maybe somebody from HMWC can come in and kick your tires a little bit and see if you actually do have a gap. Get a third party. Do you have anybody on your board that could come in and help you just really assess, because you don't want to be wrong. You think you're ready, but you don't want to be wrong. And then, of course, you guys are in a powerful position to very specifically tap in and help them right away with due diligence. Even if it's 3 years before the deal, it doesn't hurt to start looking at those things now. For the group that is in the, hey, my identity is the business and the business is me, I can't envision the future, can you at least facilitate what are their future options? Maybe it's going to be an ESOP, maybe it's going to be to hand it down to a child. At least brainstorm with them. You might not be able to get them to engage any further, but you're doing your job as a business advisor to at least get them to think through their options. And then if they finally agree that you're right, I need to think about this differently, then from this session today, you know a lot of different actions that you can take. Frozen by uncertainty, you can start talking to them about 5 steps that they can be taking. There's people in this room with Consultants Link that can have a cup of coffee with you to help you help them, or help the Consultants Link person go in with you to the client and help them figure out the steps they should be taking to unfreeze their uncertainty. And then the same thing, if you have any clients that go, you know what, I love these questions you're asking me. These are good questions that I would expect from my business advisor. That's a person that's saying, I am ready for some help. Figure out who you need to turn to get for help. And if anybody from Consultants Link can do that, then all of us are all over it. So in summary, please have your own personal mantra that says, I will never have a client that utters the phrase, if I could turn back time. Because for HMWC to truly deliver on its mission, which is to be trusted business advisors, and not advising your clients on the most important topic in the life of their business, then you're not living up to your mission. So I want you thinking in terms of what do I need to do so that they never utter that phrase, and that you can help them identify some of those outlying puzzle pieces that have to get put into place. And then I'd ultimately say to people, use time as a friend. That is a powerful expression that you will want to use with your clients. That resonates with people. They realize that you're right, I'm getting close. I'm only 1 year, 3 years, or 4 years away. I got to use time as a friend now. So I will end there, and as we open it up for any questions, these are the folks in the room. If you already know of a client that you'd say, hey, wow, I can already think of a client that needs the following expertise. There's a picture that lines up with folks in this room. Please don't hesitate to grab them before you go.